Hello friends, it's Game of the Year award time, and I figured since I do these developer diaries and talk about other games, I would talk about my Game of the Year. And after careful deliberation, I have chosen D4 as my Game of the Year. If you're unfamiliar with it, D4 stands for Dark Dreams Don't Die. And it's developed by Axis Games, and Swery65, the creator of Deadly Premonition, was the lead on the project. And it's a very weird game. I think everyone who plays it I would say everyone who likes it really likes the quirkiness. It captures Deadly Premonition's quirkiness, but it's a very unique package, and it doesn't have anything to do with horror, which I guess is why I haven't really talked about it here yet. But I think it's worth talking about, at least to me, since it's my Game of the Year and my developer diaries. I'll do what I want. No, I'm just kidding. So, what is the game? It's tough to explain. I would say it's mostly an adventure game. And when it was developed, it was designed to be a Kinect-only adventure game. And so the navigation is essentially node-based, so it's kind of like Myst, where you move to discrete points and you select them using your hands. And but because the Xbox One unbundled the Kinect sensor, they later added gamepad controls. I was very fortunate to meet Swery at PAX, as he's a game development hero of mine, and he said that you should really play with the Kinect sensor to get the full experience. And definitely, I think it's one of the better games that uses the Kinect sensor. I mean, certainly, like Dance Central, obviously is the shining star of the Kinect library. I never played Fantasia. I don't know. Some people thought that was good. I think. I don't know. But it's interesting, and while I don't think you essentially I don't think you necessarily miss out on part of the experience playing with the controller. You know, Swery had talked about how he really designed it so you could be, you know, eating popcorn with one hand, and the other hand you sort of navigate around, and for the most part, it actually works well, and it creates an interesting, sorry, I'm drawing a blank here. I forget the word I was looking for exactly, but it's sort of an interesting difference from, you know, most adventure games, or you know, it feels different because of the Kinect interface, which is kind of neat. I'd be lying to say that it worked 100% of the time for me. It's still a bit frustrating. I don't know if Microsoft is still working on their libraries, or if you know, to some extent you have to, as the game developer, try and make sense out of, you know, noisy data, but there were definitely some times I got frustrated, but not to the point where I gave up and picked up a controller. But I think it does feel a little different. It's a little more active, you know, when you're in like the QTE sort of fight scenes. I found it kind of neat to do gestures for those. It's sort of more active, gets the blood pumping a little more. I mean, certainly I've played many games with QTEs, and, you know, like, doing this is just such second nature. So I thought that was cool, but really I think I've skirted the issue of why D4 is so compelling, and I think it's the quirkiness. The characters are all really weird, and they're weird in an interesting way. And that was the thing when I played it. I just wanted to find out more about what was going to happen, and it's an episodic game, so now I have to wait a bit to find out what's going to happen. But even the like secondary characters, there's a really weird guy who's like a fashion designer, but he's in love with his mannequin and thinks his mannequin is a real person, and like there's someone else who's very neurotic and just keeps making notes of everything and always giving advice from some doctor, I think Dr. Johnson, maybe I got the name wrong, but for whatever reason she is basing her life around the teachings of this doctor. And then there's a really, really, really tall guy that speaks like really strangely and slowly, and it's all very, very weird, and even the premise is weird. It's basically you're able to travel backwards in time, and you're trying to understand who murdered your wife. So it's like a detective story with time travel, and then but when you actually are doing the things, it's just everything is so quirky and weird and interesting. And I mean, that's the real crux of why the game is so good. Is it's just really, really interesting. It's a cool, interesting world that's different and weird, and it's a place where you want to get lost in. You want to find out what happens to the quirky characters, and what they're gonna say, and what the next mystery is, and I mean, even the overarching mystery, I think, isn't the driving force. I mean, it's the mysteries of each individual characters and figuring out how they fit into the bigger picture. So I mean, to some extent, it's almost like Twin Peaks in that way, and certainly the quirkiness of the characters is very Twin Peaks-esque, but you're not looking at it like oh, I need to drive this mystery forward and just find out the wife's killer. You want to understand the entire thing. You want to you just want to be in the world, and you want to find out what happens. And so D4 is my game of the year, and certainly there were some great games. I haven't finished everything that came out this year. I'm still playing a few games like Bayonetta 2 and Sunset Overdrive and Evil Within, but I mean, in my mind, I don't think they are quite up to the level of D4. Although I'm enjoying Bayonetta 2, and I especially Bayonetta has quite a bit of quirk, which I think is pretty amusing. I don't know if you played Bayonetta, but she's kind of weird, and everyone else is kind of weird, and they tell the story through these weird comics, and there's like a ton of story. Like, certainly Bayonetta is a very tight action game, which is what stands out most, but there's a lot of story as well. So anyway, I'll keep playing games, and but I feel pretty confident that D4 is the Game of the Year winner, from me anyway. So thanks for watching.